Okay, today I am going to work on making a hot water heater repair. This particular water heater happens to be the name brand is a Bradford White, and the customer called saying that the water heater itself wouldn't relight it, go out and wouldn't come back on. And I've worked on so many of these, so I really knew that the problem was before I even got there, but I did go through the procedures to make sure it was not the thermocouple, control valve, or what have you. So what it happens to be is we have the control valve itself is defective, and the components are just not working. It's a kind of electronic device that operates this water heater, so basically anything could go wrong with the electronics. So what I've done is I looked on the Bradford White tag. This is what we do every time if you're a plumber. Some plumbers may not even know this, that on the tag it's got the warranty and everything that it takes to call Bradford White up and diagnose and troubleshoot the water heater. What you see me doing here now is I am starting to break it down, because I'm going to replace all the components. And right here, this is the thermocouple that I'm taking loose off of here, and I've already disconnected the some of the lead wires. And this part here I'm disconnecting is the tube that feeds the pilot up under the water heater, and the pilot and the main burner itself. But as I was saying, if you call the 1-800 number, usually you will need to be a plumber to call this number, and give them the serial number, the model of the water heater, and Bradford White, they'll let you know if there is a defect in the valve itself, and if there is not one, they will honor the warranty on the water heater, and they will send all the components out to you. You can either call Bradford White themselves, and maybe they have a tech that will come out, but if you do have a plumber that comes to repair it, make sure you do a little research first and check with Bradford White, because some plumbers, like I said, they don't even know the operations of the warranty on the water heater. Okay, now we've disconnected the wires and the supply tubing and the thermocouple. So the control valve up on top is disconnected as far as electronic goes. And what I'm using here is we call it a 4-way screwdriver. It's actually 6-way. You have two ends where you have a flathead. Each side is different size flathead. Then you have another side that has Phillips, which has a small Phillips and a big Phillips. And then when you remove the bits, you have a nut driver, which is what I'm using now. And this is a standard nut driver. It just fits perfect to the nuts that we're about to pull off of here to remove the cover to the burner assembly. So if your water heater, and it's Bradford White, and it's still up under warranty, make sure that you don't have a plumber come in here and tell you you need a new water heater. Check with Bradford White, and on the descriptions below I'll put the information to Bradford White, the 1-800 number, and a little more information that might help. And this is also going to be in the description, I'm sorry, is, let me explain. Right now I am working in an attic, and this is down in Texas, outer parts of Houston, and of course you know Houston, Texas gets very hot, and so you can see the sweat. And in the attic right now it's probably, I don't know, close to 90 to 100 degrees, and it can get much hotter than this. And a lot of water heater manufacturers, they actually don't recommend that these water heaters or any water heater is put in the attic. The reason being is because they have a safety shutoff. If the water heater, the temperature gets so high, for your safety, it would automatically cut the water heater off to prevent any explosion of the water heater, which is possible with too much heat. Okay, now we've got the door off. We're going to let's see about pulling the burner assembly out of here. We're going to replace the control valve, and the part of the burner assembly inside. These are the parts that we got from Bradford White. You can't get it anywhere but from Bradford White or any Bradford White dealer, so you might want to check around. This particular one I call the parts plumbing supply house that carries Bradford White parts, and all I had to do is take the serial number off the water heater, the make and model, and give them the tags, and they just gave me a free replacement kit to replace it. Most people that deal with Bradford Whites, they're familiar with the operation, so this is what happened here. Okay, now we've removed the burner assembly, and what I am doing here is cutting the water to the water heater off. Now, the way I do this is I actually do not drain the water heater, but anybody that may be unexperienced, I would probably recommend draining your water heater. What I actually do is cut the water to the water heater off, and then flip the relief tube up at top to relieve some pressure from the water heater itself, so that when I do remove the control valve on the side here, the water doesn't come rushing out. It'll just kind of blurp out a little bit because there's no air in the tank to allow it to just flow freely out as fast as it could. And this is something I do, and I do it pretty quick. So you'll see me do this. I guess one of the first things we're going to do now, after we got the burner assembly out, is we're going to disconnect the gas line. Now I know there's certain areas of the country, but not here, that the gas line, like you see this flexible gas line here, it's not code approved, but here it is, which makes it a little easy and convenient. So it took me some time to get used to it. I was so used to running black iron pipe in other parts of the country where it's required you have to have a solid black iron pipe connection. what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and put this adapter back on here, this flared nut iron pipe, half-inch to half-inch gas flared nut. I just wanted to kind of pull it off and put some more compound on there, just to make sure it's sealed pretty tight. And I'm putting a little backup on it so I can get a little more oomph in there. And these wires, I've been doing it quite a while, so I'm real familiar with how they go back together. But if you're someone that's doing this project and you're not sure about where those wires would go, I would just take pictures of it before you take it apart, and that way you can always look in your phone and just put it back just the way it was. This is the new control valve you see right here, and what I'm doing with that is I am preparing it so that I can quickly put it back in place of the old one as soon as I pull this one out, so too much water doesn't come out. So right here, I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen this gas line up right now. Just loosen it, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use this gas line as a wrench to turn off to twist off the gas control valve. See, now I have some leverage to get this. So what I'm going to do is just going to loosen it up and then pull the gas tubing pipe off, and then I can, from there I'll be able to turn it with my hand. You see that this is what I was talking about, relieving the pressure from the water heater. Now it's still filled with water, but as long as there's no water in the tank, it's not going to rush out at you. It's just going to be like a bloop, bloop, bloop. You'll see. You know, now we're speaking on Bradford White water heaters. The thing I like, I guess, most about the Bradford water heaters is it actually tells you what's wrong with it. When there's a light on there and it gives you signals, and you just decode the signals from the information that they give you on the side, and that tells you what's wrong with the water heater. Okay, here's the box. This is the new gas control valve. And you can see that they send all the necessary components that you need to completely rebuild it. Okay, of course you know what this is, the gas control valve. This controls the temperature of the water heater. It controls everything, so if the water heater tends to overheat, this will automatically cut it off. components that will be connecting to the burner assembly. And this part here, I wouldn't even worry about it. I used to use that part to try to diagnose water heater problems, because if you connect the leads together, it'll keep the pilot lit actually, but I wouldn't recommend doing that, just for testing purposes. Okay, we're taking the old one off, and as you can see, small amount of water come out, and the tank is completely full. And we're just going to screw this in real quick. Okay, now we're good. I guess you can see how hot it is, huh? Put a little piped up on here. And the part that you see, the extra part with the cap on it, we call that the drip leg or the dirt leg. You know, everyone has their terminologies. The purpose of that is to catch any debris or humidity that may be in the gas line itself. Because of the weight of the debris or the moisture, it would just go straight down into the drip leg rather than blowing up into the control valve itself, where it would give you some issues if you had any debris or humidity caught up in the control valve itself. Okay, now that I have that on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the water heater back on. This way I can make sure that there's no leaks as I'm working on rebuilding the rest of the components. And by the way, this control gas control valve, it's not battery operated. It's actually controlled by the fire that comes from the pilot light itself. That's the importance of a thermocoupling, because when the flames from the pilot itself is heating and burning fire up against the thermocoupling, it causes the thermocoupling to generate just a small amount of electricity that keeps everything operating. This is why when you do go to like the water heater, this is why you have to hold the button down for about a minute. You have to give the thermocoupling a chance to start generating a small amount of electricity to keep the rest of the components operating. And now I'm just taking this setup, which is the thermocoupling, the pilot light, and the striker, off of the burner assembly itself, and we're going to put the new one on here. See the thermocoupling on this one Looks a lot different than the older one. It's a little more up to date. So keep in mind, if you are a homeowner and you do try to do something like this yourself, well, first of all, I really wouldn't recommend it. And second, I don't think the supply house will give you the parts unless you're a licensed plumber represented by a company. And trying to change out the thermocoupling, it's not going to be possible because it's not a standard thermocoupling that you would just pick up in any hardware store. A lot of those days is gone by now. If you had the old thermocoupling, you could just pull one out and put it in. These water heaters have changed a lot. See the end of this here, the end of the burner right there, that part right there goes into a small slot back in the up under the water heater. You can kind of see it. Let me see if I can get you a better look. This is the best way that you're going to line this the burner assembly up. You see back there, that end of that burner assembly slides right in there, and that's going to keep it nice and steady and in place. I'm going to tell you, putting the burner assembly in wasn't a problem, which is good that you're watching this video. The problem I had was trying to line up the burner tuber, the burner tube that feeds the gas to the burners right here. I mean, it was hot, and I mean, it's good you see this video because you're going to run into this now and then, so it's not going to always be easy. I've had some to go right in, but this is one of the few that I've had a problem with. And it's just getting that tubing set just right. And sometimes the issue is that the new gas control valve, it's not exactly like the old one, so that it could be a small millimeter that just throws it off, and so you have to kind of mess with the tubing to kind of straighten it out, or even you may have to just bend it to get it to fit just right to sort of screw up in there. Okay, I give up on that one. Let's just say that it took longer than it should have. I was just having issues trying to line the tubing up, and I didn't want to drag you through the torture of waiting for me to get this line up. It just goes to show you that all your jobs are not going to be easy. Sometimes they go right in. Just happen to have a hard time this time. Okay. Yeah, if you're wondering why this burner assembly door doesn't look like the first one that I took off, actually these are two jobs in one on one video. I don't know, somehow I lost the footage on the first one, so what I did is put them both together. It's the same process, so that I don't want you to think I'm trying to confuse you. But we're still back to reassembling everything. So we're putting the burner assembly door back on. Remember back in the old days where you had access to the bottom and you needed a match or whatever to try to light the water heater. That was very dangerous. Yeah, now these water heaters today, they're a lot safer than the old ones. They started doing these water heaters like this. I want to say probably about 11 or 12 years ago they started doing this. It may be new to a lot of people, but I remember when they first came out, I was doing a lot of hot water heaters installed. Yep, it's a lot nicer now. Now here are these are the wire hookups. Actually, it doesn't make a difference which side you stick either wire on. It all comes out the same. Now, if you look real close to the sensor, that's called a sensor right there, where that red wire is going to right there. If you look real close, you can see a small red button. That button, anytime you go to light the water heater or relight it, you want to click that button. That's a reset button. If you don't click that before you go to relight it, your water heater may not stay lit very long. And it's a sensor device, you know, it just in case your water heater gets to a certain temperature, a little too hot, it will, of course, like I said before, it will cut it off. The gas back on. Okay, this little button here, once you push it in, it'll allow gas to go out into the burners so that we can relight the water heater. But we're going to let's go ahead and connect the this wire here. It goes to the thermocoupling. And if you remember the older water heaters, well, even some of the newer ones today, some of them, depending on the brand, they do still have the copper wire that goes from the control valve down to the thermocoupling. But this is something I guess Bradford White came out with. That's why you can't run out and just buy a standard thermocoupling. And the reason I'm holding this button down, the red button here on top, is as I'm putting this together, I'm letting the gas kind of float through to kind of clear the line out, get some of the air out of there. gas on, and we're opening the gas valve at the control valve itself. Before we light it, I'm getting the air out the line, some more air out. The nice feature about this Bradford White is you don't have to bend over and look real hard in through the window to make sure that the water heater is lit. You just when you hold this down and you click the clicker, that square red button right there. Yeah, that button right there, that square red one, that's the igniter. That when you click it, yes, when you click it, it will spark a fire down in the burner, and of course that fire, as the gas is going through, will ignite the gas. And once we've got it held long enough, we'll know that the pilot is completely lit and will stay on once we see the green light flashing right there. You just seen it, the green light flash. There it is. So now we know that the pilot is lit, and we can actually relieve the button right now. As I said, one of the other good things about this control valve of the electronic is that the water heater itself will tell you what's wrong with it. And on the side of the water heater, there's a panel with information and directions on how to relight your water heater. So, and how to diagnose the problem that you're having. Okay, now we've got it on. This job's complete.